Hi, and welcome to our second edition of Rocksmith Encore, featuring the talented hands and skills of Brian Poedy. My name is Dan Hamrick. I'm your community developer on behalf of Rocksmith, and if you're new to Rocksmith Encore, this is our above and beyond stream that we do. This is a little bit more free form. We can do deep dives on topics that we wouldn't normally get to cover in our weekly stream. And Brian Poedy is one of our note trackers and engineers, and he also builds guitars in his free time, as if he had free time. But if you didn't see our show from 2 weeks ago, that was part one, where he actually took apart a guitar and reassembled it live on the air. This time we're going quite a bit deeper. He has disassembled the same guitar again. This is a good, like, sort of middle of the road starter guitar. About 150 bucks is what it goes for street. And the idea was, if you have also sort of maybe outgrown the guitar that you started learning how to play with or use with Rocksmith, how can you make it better? How does your guitar work? How is it put together? What parts can you add to it to make it a better guitar overall? And can you do that yourself? And Poedy is here to basically say yes to all of the following things. So we're going to upgrade some key elements of this guitar. Hopefully that'll be relevant to you. Maybe your tuners are in need of replacement. Maybe they're not strong enough, or maybe you want to get a different sound out of your guitar by changing the pickups. We're going to cover that and several other things today. Brian, thank you.
Yeah,
you've been working very, very, very hard on this, including doing some homework.
Yeah, it's true. There were a few things that I couldn't do here because people said, no, you can't use large power tools in the office.
No, you cannot.
The drill press is only like 200 pounds. It would have been fine.
We have stairs.
This table is really strong. It's great.
And we have, how are we going to get it up here? Second floor streaming room. This is not going to work for us.
Yeah, so there's a few things I had to do outside of the office, and I recorded those and put together some video that we'll jump to in just a second.
Okay.
But I also wanted to say, yeah, sometimes you have a guitar that maybe it's just sentimental. Maybe you really like the way that it feels because it feels really familiar. You've been playing it for a long time, but it's not quite living up to your expectations or where you are as a player. So there's a lot you can do through replacing components like tuners and the bridge and electronics to kind of bring an instrument up to where you are.
Right.
And that's a lot of what we're going to be doing today.
Okay. Also, a reminder that if you're just here for the free things, good news, we have free things for you. We're going to be giving away some Steam codes. That's courtesy of Black Widow 9 in our chat room. She's our chat moderator. Say hi to Tawny, and be nice to Tawny, because she's going to let you know when she's doing giveaways. So these are going to be random draws. She's weapons free. She's allowed to give these away whenever she wants over the course of the stream. So keep in touch with her. Also, if you have questions, Pt.2 is in our chat room. He is going to be helping get some of those questions into us here in the studio, because I'm not looking at my screen on this stream. I'm just going to be talking with Poedy and dealing with what we're doing with on the table. But we do welcome your questions. If you have if you need more information about a step that we're talking about, we'll do our best to try to answer that. We probably won't be able to get to all of the questions, and some of your questions may be highly personal and technical about your specific instrument, but we'll do whatever we can to get as many of those as possible. Just you know, keep in mind that we are like 4 people here. Travis, Travis, you want to say hello? Travis is on the in our operator cam. Travis is running the wheels of steel, and he's going to be, hi Travis. And there's Honeypot with some questions and data. So that's how we're doing this.
We're here to help you out.
A very high tech and very low tech at the same time. So let us know what it is that you want to know, and we will try to accommodate you in real time. But other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Poedy, because this is his stream. You have stripped this guitar. You have no tuners on it right now. The neck is off the guitar. Some of the knobs are missing.
Yeah.
And it looks like the rest of the parts are there, but are they? Are these all just like there for show?
No, not entirely. I did find it kind of ironic after I finished putting the guitar together 2 weeks ago, and I went, oh man, I just have to take it all apart again.
Yes, you do.
So I threatened that I might route it for a neck humbucker.
Yes, so this started as a traditional Fender-style 3 single coil guitar, where the space in the wood is cut out specifically for single coil pickups, and you threatened to do humbuckers, and I said you can't bring a drill press, you can't route out wood on the air in the office anyway. So
I did it elsewhere.
Okay.
It was already routed in the bridge for a humbucker, so we just did the neck. And yeah, if we can jump to that video, Travis.
This is like a cooking show where they
It
create
is.
the cake ahead of time.
So here we go. The neck's already off the body because it's hard to fit an entire guitar in a backpack. So I just pulled the neck off and threw the body in my bag, didn't take anything else off. Guitars come apart really quick if you've got a drill. So here we go.
So is this your home workshop for where you build your guitars, or is this?
This is a home workshop, yes.
Okay, this is a friend's home workshop.
Yeah, this is actually my father-in-law's garage.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Okay.
thank you, John. Yeah.
So basically now you're disassembling everything that you had assembled
Right.
on the first show.
So everything has to come out because not only are we going to route it for a humbucker, but we're also going to swap the 6-point tremolo, the vintage 6-point tremolo, which on this particular guitar really doesn't stay in tune very well. We're going to swap that for a more modern 2-point trem.
All right.
So
you still haven't cut out, you haven't like desoldered any wires yet. This pickguard, while it's loose, I still see a large gray wire there that's connected.
yeah, the output wires are still connected to the volume pot, and they're going to remain connected for a while because I was being a little bit lazy.
You were being efficient.
Yeah.
Let's
So,
put it that way.
I will say this. There's a right way to do this, and then there's the way that I'm about to do this.
Okay.
So, really, I should be taping down or tacking down with a couple of screws this pattern and using a pattern bit in the router. And the pattern bit has a bearing on the top. And the bearing rides along the edge of the pattern, so it just cuts out the perfect shape.
Sure.
No problem. I couldn't find my pattern bit,
Okay.
and I was a little pressed for time because, you know, this was on the clock. So I said, all right, we're just gonna do it freehand. So that's the pattern that normally I would be attaching to the body, but instead I just lined it up in the center and up against the top of the pickup route and drew in.
With Sharpie.
Yeah, I used a Sharpie and I drew.
You're eyeballing this.
Yeah, I'm just doing it by hand.
But there's better ways to do this, is what you're saying. You can get
This
proper templates and proper bits to do this as you would expect.
If this was one of the guitars I was building from scratch, I wouldn't do that. Travis
has a question.
Hey, we've got a question here. Is there any reason that Poedy didn't use a stacked humbucker when putting this together?
That's true. You could have taken a humbucker that is built in the shape of a single coil rather than doing a 2-coil traditional humbucker.
Yeah, I could have. So,
is it just because you prefer, or you had a bunch of 2-coil humbuckers at home?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Here we go, starting to route out the body. Going slow. A second ago, you would have seen me start to adjust the height of the router. You don't want to put a lot of side load on a router or you'll just burn it out. So I'm taking this in 2 passes each, probably about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch deep. So this is the first pass, and then you'll see me adjust it again real quick, and we'll do the second pass, which will take it to its full depth. As for stacked humbuckers, they sound different.
Right.
I mean, they sound more like a single coil. They don't really sound like a single coil. They don't really sound like a humbucker. They just have
like
their
their own
own
thing.
traditional sound. I didn't have any laying around.
Well, also, if you don't want to do this very technical step of carving wood,
Right.
you do have other options. If you just want to change the sound and you're looking to experiment, you can throw anything. I mean, they make humbuckers in the shape of traditional single coils. They make single coils in the shape of humbuckers.
Yeah.
You can swap P90s and mini humbuckers in the same route without changing anything. So you don't have to do this extra step, but this is extra for experts who enjoy this aspect of it.
Yeah, I just sort of wanted to show the process of
Sure.
if you wanted to make a bigger hole in your guitar, this
is what you have to do.
This is nearly the right way to do it. It's very close.
Keep in mind that Poedy is doing this with an office guitar And as you said at the beginning, well, if this was one of the guitars that I was building, because you do build guitars and wire pickups in your when you're not in the office, you wouldn't necessarily do this way. You would wait an extra day because you weren't on the deadline.
Right.
And also, it's not a $150 guitar.
Yeah, but
that you're working with at home.
I had not a lot of time to get
Sure.
this done. But yeah, a lot of people like the single coil sized humbuckers. It's just not something that I had on hand, and you know, our budget for this went into the hardware mostly, so the pickups came out of my personal stash.
We'll take freebies anytime. Yes, Travis, you have another question from our audience?
More of a comment, and as a woodworker, I have to agree. Please, please, please wear eye protection.
I assume you're wearing eye protection out of frame, right?
Yeah, sure, it's fine.
Okay. Do wear eye protection. Do take whatever safety precautions necessary. Now, you're fitting the bridge in the video right now, or you're at least lining up the bridge.
Right. So
this is the new bridge?
So this is the new bridge, and the reason that I got this bridge, or one of the reasons that we got this bridge, was because it was supposed to fit in the same holes
Direct
as
replace.
the original bridge.
Advertised as direct replace.
So we would have just had to enlarge the original holes. However, not surprisingly, I suppose, it didn't actually line up. So we had to dowel the original holes. So here we chopped down a dowel, and it's getting hammered in nice and tight.
And that's just with a little wood glue?
Yeah, it's just a little wood glue. It just has to stick in there. And this is a nice flush cut saw that's real flexible. We're just chopping that dowel off.
And boom.
And the tape is there to protect the finish. And yeah, making sure it's nice and flush against the body.
Again, you may not want to go to this level. You may not want to actually drill holes in your guitar to fit new parts. You can always take this to a licensed professional. You can take it to your local guitar store or your luthier. But if you are handy and you would like to experiment and you don't mind the possibility that you're going to make a mistake or you're going to have something that's not going to fit the way that it was advertised to fit, then this is still an option. These things are not indestructible. It's not the end of the world either.
So,
you're tapping pilot holes for where the new bridge goes.
So this is one of the keys to making this actually work, is using a center punch that fits the diameter of the bridge, the inside diameter of the hole. So you're punching exactly where you want to drill, so there's no slop. And I'm just double checking that everything lines up here. I screwed the pick guard down
so
to make sure.
Move around while you do this.
Yeah, just to give myself a reference and make sure everything lined up. And now we're going to move over to the drill press. And this is kind of the other important bit to making all of this work the first time, is a brad point drill bit. So the brad point drill bit has a little point right on the end rather than kind of a normal drill bit that's just triangular. So you can line it up exactly with that point that we center punched earlier.
Okay.
And here we go.
And this is do it right or dowel it, right? Like if you mess this part up, you have to go in and replace the wood and try to do it again?
Yeah, you would have to go and do it again.
But you don't have to like throw it away.
No, you can fix pretty much anything. But
I can break pretty much anything. You can fix pretty much anything.
But if you take your time and you measure everything and mark everything ahead of time, you're not likely to have to do it a second time. And here goes hole number 2.
Now here's a crazy question. What if you don't have a drill press?
What if you don't have a drill press?
Because, I mean, you didn't have a drill press. You found somebody else.
I do have a drill press.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
What are you talking for the investment of a drill press above and beyond what it takes to learn to use one safely and correctly?
Oh, I don't know.
Are there public spaces, like are there maker spaces where you can find this kind of stuff if you want to do this?
There's certainly workshops,
shared workshop
especially
or
in
something.
cities and whatnot. I'm taking it a little slower this time around, which is how you should do it, to clear out those flutes on the bit. And yeah, that's that. Holes are drilled. Now we're just gonna check the depth versus the depth of the inserts. Both those holes look good. And now we're kind of going to turn the drill press into an arbor so we can press those bushings in.
Okay, so there is a little piece of metal that goes between the wood and the final, and the access point for the bridge, right? Where it pivots.
Yeah,
and that's
so
what we're putting
instead of your screw going directly into the wood, and the reason why we had to enlarge the holes is for those bushings to go in, and then your screws screw into the bushings.
Okay.
So yeah, that was that.
Travis has a question for us too.
And if we want to jump to our close-up cam here, we can also,
So you routed it. It doesn't look bad. I mean, again, I wouldn't look at that and immediately assume, hey, wow, that was done by hand or slightly sloppily.
Yeah, the end result is reasonably clean.
But that comes down to skill. Like, again, your mileage may well vary if you're not used to making guitars. You've made several guitars, so...
And here are our new bridge inserts.
Okay.
In place of the old holes. I didn't bother to fill the old holes because...
Who cares? It's not really going to be seen. Will it be seen?
It won't be seen. The new bridge is just going to cover those.
Then that's fine. Travis, sorry, you still had a question. Is there something that you wanted to bring up, or have we passed that point?
No, there are two things.
Okay.
The first is we're having some mic issues, so I think we should go to our backup mics.
Okay, can do that.
So I'm going to mute you guys for just a second. And while I've got you muted, I'm going to ask, is exchanging the faux steel parts on these cheaply produced products a good idea anyway, or is the hate unfounded audio-wise? So we're trying to get that one underway. Is it worth it to change out the parts?
It sort of depends on what your base is.
Sorry, one more time.
I said it sort of depends on what your base is, I think. If you have a decent starting point, then it's worth investing the money to upgrade. In the case of this bridge, I wouldn't bother replacing the block. I assume that's what we're talking about, is replacing this pot metal block with something that's made out of real metal.
Like brass is a very common thing.
Yeah, brass or steel.
It's heavier sustain, right? It's like it's supposed to give you more resonance. Is that the idea, or is it just stronger?
It has more mass.
Okay.
So there's this idea that mass is going to increase your sustain. It's probably going to sound different. Whether or not it sounds better is
up to you.
Is really subjective.
Yeah.
I've replaced the block in a couple of guitars, and I've been happy with the results, but those guitars also had nice bridges on them to begin with. So, like I said, I wouldn't really bother replacing the block on this. You could replace the entire bridge for probably the same amount of money and maybe get a higher performance part altogether.
All right. So that's the old bridge, right?
This is the old bridge.
And this is the new bridge.
Let's throw this new bridge on here.
Now, is there a reason you're doing this in any specific order? Is there a priority of how you should be building or upgrading the parts on your guitar? Obviously, if you're doing just the pickups, then you do just the pickups. But if you decide, hey, I'm going to splash out for tuners, bridge, and pickups, like, is there a preferred way to do it?
If this was my one guitar and I could replace one part on it, it would be the tuners. Okay, I agree with that, because I've had more guitars that were really good, except the tuner slipped, so it doesn't stay in tune. Yeah. God forbid if it has a tremolo system, the minute you use it, it dips out of... Yeah, this guitar was very, very bad about staying in tune. So if I could replace one part, it would be the tuners. If I had to move on from there, it would probably be the electronics, and the bridge would probably be last on my list. But things we're doing today. You have the benefit of being able to do the tuners and the bridge, which is really going to help your tuning stability here. And also, I guess it's worth pointing out, this bridge is actually the cheapest part to replace. This bridge was $30 or $40. Oh, okay, that's not. The tuners were about $50, and I mean, if you were going to buy 3 handmade pickups,
Well,
that
that's
would
like
run you
150.
several $100s.
Yeah, or through $200-$300.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're putting basically $400 worth of parts into a $150 guitar.
Yeah.
This may or may not make sense to you, but again, sentimentality plays a big part. I've heard a lot of big name players, when they get asked in an interview, "What was your first guitar?" and they know exactly what it was, and a lot of them say, "And I still have it because it's sentimental." It's not that they play it; it's that they want it to be playable. They want it around.
Right.
So,
And
sorry, Travis had a cue. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No worries. While you guys are talking about different kinds of gear you're going to swap out, we had a question. Someone is Bruno12 is asking, are there right pickups for the guitar, or can you just use any guitar, or can you not use every kind of pickup for any kind of guitar? Like, does a Strat or a Les Paul require a specific type of pickup?
Require is a strong word. You can basically put whatever you want in here if you're willing to do the work to make that pickup fit.
right, that's the biggest issue is just form factor.
Right. There are humbuckers, single coils, P90s, mini humbuckers, gold foil pickups. Any of those can be wired in to make sound in that guitar. But it doesn't. It's just what it comes sort of preloaded for. In this case, a standard Fender single coil was at the neck, so we couldn't put anything bigger in there until he routed it out.
Right.
But there's no rule about that. I've seen actually a Strat with 3 mini humbuckers. That's still something that I want to make because I like the sound of mini humbuckers.
Yeah.
It's just instead of 3 single coils, I had 3 mini humbuckers. Looked gorgeous, sounded amazing to me.
Yeah, and they all sound a little different. So it's all about what sort of sound you're chasing, and then what do you have to do to achieve that in your guitar.
But there's no electrical reason why you can't mix pickups as long as you find out what each of those pickups needs to work cleanly with the others.
Yeah, mixing active pickups and passive pickups,
Well,
you can run into some issues, but
I wouldn't recommend that.
That's a whole other thing. Let's throw this bridge on.
Oh, yeah, you were going to throw the bridge on like 5 minutes ago, and I made you talk about stuff.
So this one is super bizarre.
Oh, we're going to go to the table close cam, I think.
Yeah. Let's get close up. This one is really weird because these screws actually go into a hole.
Huh.
As opposed to most 2-point tremolos have a cutout and the post just slides in. So you actually have to drop the screw in ahead of time and then screw the whole thing down, which is super weird, but
Where
it
did we
works.
get this weird bridge? Was this Amazon?
We got this off Amazon, and it came to us from Belgium.
From Belgium?
Yeah, it got shipped from Belgium.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a Wilkinson Tremolo. Wilkinson makes great stuff.
Yeah, they're a well-established brand.
I've got Wilkinsons on several guitars. This one also is weird because it's a kind of modern 2-point tremolo with vintage bent saddles.
That's odd. Usually you would see the more modern kind of saddles, which are sort of solid and don't have that little curlicue thing at the end. So wow, we found something even weirder than I thought we were going to find.
Yeah, we put kind of an oddball bridge on here, and we'll see how it works out. I think it will most likely be an improvement, but we'll see. So yeah, those screw down really easily into our new bushings. And then this came with a new trem claw, but a trem claw is a trem claw. So I just kept the existing trem claw on here.
So the trem claw is this a little piece of metal that's in the back of a tremolo routed guitar. It's sort of a standard Fender design, and you put springs between the bridge that he just installed and this metal claw that's screwed into the back of the guitar, and that's how you know that's how you control how much tension is on that tremolo system.
Right.
You can make it float. Sometimes you'll hear them called floating tremolo systems.
And now we've got a lovely new bridge on.
And there it is. So now it's connected into the body. There's some resistance to the springs. You can add as many or as few springs as you want back there, but it's going to affect the final setup and how it feels and how wiggly it is, honestly.
Right. So
but that's it. You didn't even use a tool, did you? You finger tightened those things in.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to adjust them once the guitar is all together. But
Okay. That was surprising to me.
I just
Travis has another
put them in
question.
all the way.
God, what's with the questions? No, I mean, go right
Sorry,
ahead.
guys. Our audience is really, they've got some great questions.
Okay.
Matt Al asks, does that Wilkinson Tremolo have the offset intonated holes in the sound block?
It does, yes. So, here.
Somebody's going to have to define all of that.
Can we go to this guy and I can maybe show?
What is an
Oh, it's
offset
really dark.
intonated hole?
Okay, so
Oh, wow. Okay. So in many bridges, those 6 areas where you would feed the string in through the back would be in a straight line.
They would be.
In this design, they are not. They are
Right.
staggered, and that's so that it stays in tune a little bit better naturally, and the intonation of the string within sort of intonation's a whole nother thing that I think we're going to talk about on a future stream.
we sure will.
But yes, that's interesting. I didn't realize that, and I didn't know that that was a Wilkinson thing. So,
Yeah,
this
so-
design is to help it stay in tune better overall.
Yeah, probably. It's going to mean there's less interference for the string where it exits and goes into the saddle because, as you can see, they tend to move up, so your E is furthest back versus your A and your D, so
Sure.
that the hole for the D string is the one that is offset from these other two, and then your G and your B are further back, and your E is pretty far up again. So they're offsetting that last hole so that the string break angle isn't so bad coming out of the bridge for these two saddles. And that'll probably help the guitar stay in tune because the string won't get bound between the hole and the top of the saddle. You can maybe see in there.
Not really. I see a little. I see
Yeah,
a little bit of it. Yeah, it's where those holes align. But
Yeah.
interesting. Good call. Did you have another one, Travis? Did you no? Okay, you're good. Then you can continue.
All
What's
right.
next on your hit parade here?
So, yeah, let's move on to the electronics. This is another one that I didn't want to do live because it would have taken the entire stream.
Oh, well then thank you for pre-recording this segment.
Yeah, so this got pre-recorded, and you guys can have a look. Obviously, this isn't real time. I'm not this fast.
Oh, so you've sped up this video. That's worth noting because, man, when I solder, it's slow.
So I'm just starting out by just running some bus to all my grounds.
Some bus?
Yeah, it's just plain copper wire.
Okay.
So it's getting run to all the pots so that they're all grounded together.
If you are stumbling into the stream, you're watching Rocksmith Encore with Brian Poedy. We're going over how to upgrade and maintain your guitar in a 3-part series. This is definitely the upgrade part as we get into the electronics. This whole thing will be available as a video on demand after we're done, and you can watch part 1 before this to get primed as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on Twitch or YouTube, you can always slow these down if you want to see it in real time. So yeah. Now we're going to ground this third pot here. This wire gets really hot.
So naturally you're touching it with your bare hands instead of using tools or gloves or something. So this
See, there you go. Pliers.
At this point, what you're wiring in is this this bridge pickup?
Well, no, I'm just grounding all the pots. So I'm just dealing with all my ground wires now.
Okay, the pots are potentiometers, which you know as volume and tone knobs. Like for anybody that's never seen the back of a guitar, that's what you're working on now. They're potentiometers. That's the official thing, but in guitar slang, they're pots.
Mm-hmm.
Did you install new pots for this?
So,
or are you just rewiring the old ones after you took everything apart?
I put 2 new pots in this, and one pot is the old pot, and that actually created a problem when it came to knobs, and maybe we'll get into that
Sure.
a little later, because pots come in multiple sizes with different size splines. So, yeah, those are all the ground wires for all the pickups, and all the pots are wired together. Travis, I see you have a question. Here goes the
Beatmaster 80
capacitor.
would like to know, wouldn't a humbucker make more sense at the neck if you want to keep it twangy?
If you want to keep it twangy,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't consider a humbucker a very twangy pickup. Humbuckers, if anything, are darker.
Warmer, yeah.
Single coils have a lot more high end because a humbucker has 2 coils that buck the hum. They get rid of the noise. They're actually out of phase, so you're losing a lot of that twanginess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anything at the neck is generally a mellower sounding pickup. Even a single coil at the neck will be not super twangy compared to the middle or the bridge position. But yeah, I would say, unless he's talking active or something, would that make a difference? Would you get a hotter or a more trebly sound out of a neck pickup if it were powered by a 9-volt battery at the same time?
I don't think it being active or passive particularly would make a huge difference.
Worth asking.
So yeah, we grounded the switch to everything, and I wised up and started using an actual helping hand here to make my life a little easier. And now we're starting to wire up the hot leads for the pickups. So each pickup has a hot and a ground at the very least. If it's a humbucker, then sometimes they have 4 conductors instead of 2. So first we wired up the grounds. Now we're wiring all the hot leads onto our switch. I think this is the last one. So I'm actually wiring this up a little different than a normal Strat. I did not wire it up with 2 tone controls. I'm wiring it up with a master volume, a master tone, and then a blender knob.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so the blend knob allows you to blend the neck pickup in when you're on the bridge pickup, or vice versa, you can blend the bridge pickup in when you're on the neck pickup, and it also allows you to have all 3 pickups on at once.
That's one of the core benefits, I think, that you can get if you do wind up doing this. If you want to rewire your guitar or you want to install new pickups, you can. There are so many wiring diagrams out there and so many pieces of advice on how to do it. I have a guitar similarly where I have the middle pickup in a 3 pickup SSH situation like this. I just the rest of it works like a normal Les Paul with a rhythm and treble. So the outer 2 pickups work fine, and the middle pickup works independently, so I can dial that in as much or as little as I want, which matched what I wanted out of that guitar.
So somebody last week had talked about putting in a coil tap. Coil tap's not something that I tend to use because a humbucker just never makes a very good single coil. But since somebody asked for it, there you go.
Oh, you did. You actually did that. Okay.
Right. So that's 1 coil getting sent to sort of the other half of the switch. And then this white wire that I'm wiring up right now is going to go to ground. So when you're in the middle position, that's going to send 1/2 of the humbucker to ground. So it's going to split the humbucker.
Right. When a coil tap is when you tap the 2 coils and you say, okay, you're technically your 2 single coil pickups that have been lashed together to work a little differently. Go back to that original single coil configuration. I want some of that voice. Sometimes that sounds good. Sometimes a lot of purists will say, it's not worth it. I would rather just have a dedicated single coil pickup that's designed to do exactly what I want it to do. Let the humbucker be a humbucker. But that, again, it's one of those many things in guitar that's all up to personal interpretation. Travis, you had another question from the folks watching our stream.
And here we're wiring.
Absolutely. So the question is, how would people who are new to wiring or new to wiring up guitars in particular know what to wire and where to wire it to?
There's lots and lots of diagrams online. And all the major pickup manufacturers are going to have diagrams with their specific color codes, and they'll show you exactly where to wire each wire. I'm not going to say it's foolproof.
I can attest to that. Yeah. It's also worth noting that, let's just say Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio, Bare Knuckle, there's all these different pickup manufacturers. They don't all follow the same colors of their wires.
No. A lot of companies go with the Seymour Duncan color codes for whatever reason, but DiMarzio and Seymour Duncan are definitely different.
Yeah. So, you can find all this information online. You can find books as well that will do it. You may find local people who are also doing this that would be willing to give you a little tutelage. But at the very least, yes, you can download like free PDFs of wiring diagrams. And then, of course, custom wiring diagrams like the one that Poedy's doing here. Oh my God, you're putting a wire through the guitar. What the hell are you doing? Is this the ground?
Yeah, we have to ground everything to the tremolo.
If you've ever played a very cheap guitar and you got a shock when you tried to play the strings, it's because this step was skipped or this wire has come loose.
Well, if this step was skipped, then you wouldn't get shocked.
Oh.
Because the tremolo isn't connected to the electronic system.
So when you get shocked by a guitar, it's still a failure of the ground wire somewhere, right?
Yeah, something's wrong somewhere. That's not something I've experienced, but...
Well, no, you don't make those kind of mistakes, Brian.
Yeah. If that's something you're really concerned about, most active electronics are not grounded to the tremolo.
Okay. Interesting to know.
But in this case, it is.
There are several books out there. I've got a couple of books by Dan Erlewine that I would recommend. I mean, they're kind of old school, but since guitar designs haven't really changed dramatically, and we're still dealing with classic. These wiring diagrams and stuff started in the 50s, and they've just been modified since then. Yeah, feel free to check out some of the Dan Erlewine books. I would recommend him. He was like a guitar repairman to the stars for many years, and he's got some comprehensive books that'll walk you through this. Travis, I saw a flag from you. What's up, my friend?
Yes, I have 2 quick questions.
All right.
The first is, can you quickly tell us what the copper tape is doing?
It's shielding the electronics. So all the black that you see inside the guitar is... and then we're done. We're back.
Shielded paint?
Yeah, it's shielding paint. So you put copper shielding on the pick guard to shield this side, and it helps keep some of the electromagnetic garbage that's around you from getting into your electronics and causing noise and hum. It's especially important with single coils because they're much more likely to pick all that noise up. You know, if you're playing Rocksmith and you're sitting in front of your TV or your computer monitor and you swivel in your chair, you'll usually be able to hear the interference
through an electromagnetic field, and that is supposed to try to at least minimize it. Doesn't generally remove it altogether because we're talking about strong magnetic fields coming out of monitors.
Right.
Travis has another one for us.
The second question, do you have a recommendation for what kind of pickups you should install to aid in note recognition in Rocksmith?
I know what Halsby uses, which is Super Distortion and PAF Pro combo. Those are both DiMarzios. That's a pretty classic combination.
I don't think it really matters as long as it's a healthy pickup putting out a decent signal. It's not that there's any one kind of Rocksmith is looking for specific pitches, and they just need to be at a certain volume. So when you start the game or whenever you choose to do this, there's that calibration step where you're just asked to strum randomly and make a lot of noise. That's really what's setting how well it detects your note. Obviously, if the pickup is working, then that step will work, and that's really all you need. You do not need a high output pickup in order to do it. But
we compensate.
I
said we compensate for your output in that step. So, yeah, it shouldn't make a lot of difference. I don't know if anyone has done really comprehensive research on that.
We haven't, because it just works. But I would say go with whatever you would like to have that pickup make specific sound through other gears, or plugging into an amp, a Super Distortion versus a JB4, or something like that. That's again, it's a matter of your ears telling you that's what I want it to sound like. So
right.
No wrong answer, but no real special thing that you should do to make your guitar more compatible with Rocksmith. This is compatible with Rocksmith when it was stock.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it worked fine. It didn't stay in tune great, but
right.
So long as it was in tune, note detection was happy. Let's talk tuners, because we've talked these other things. So last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the difference between vintage tuners being 8mm and modern tuners being 10mm.
Right.
And we're replacing these with modern tuners.
So our holes were too small because they were vintage tuners.
They were.
And
I didn't check
tuners.
That before about 2 o'clock today. I was like,
no.
these cheap tuners, they're probably built to modern specs, but they're not. So surprise, Dan,
They're modern tuners with a vintage diameter on them?
No, they're...
Oh, no. Oh, you're actually going to drill live. Oh, God. He's
Yep,
going to drill live.
We have to fix it.
I specifically said, please, let's not use power tools for anything other than putting in screws. And so here we go. Oh, my God. Look at the drill bit on this thing.
It's still too small.
All right. Show us on the close-up cam, because I know you want to do this.
There's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this, and I'm going to absolutely do it the wrong way because...
So you have the wrong drill bit, so this isn't even the correct bit for the size of hole that you need to make for this guitar.
This is the biggest bit we had in the office.
Okay. And how big is the bit?
This is a 3/8 bit. The holes should be 13/32, so this is a little undersized.
So if you wiggle it around a little bit...
Yeah, we're going to have to get creative. God. This is not an ideal way to do this.
No, especially not without any goggles or anything, any eye protection, you nutcase.
I would recommend doing this also with the drill press, but we're here and we're live, and it has to get done. It's going to be fine.
Do you want me to hold part of this?
No, I mean, you can.
Oh, look at that. Yes, okay,
right.
I'm holding this.
You should probably mute me, Travis.
Oh, God.
Here we
mute
go.
Me too. You wanted blood, folks. You got it. You're watching Rocksmith Encore. I can't believe I'm going to reset during this, but you're watching Rocksmith Encore, which is a special series of guitar videos that don't really have as much to do with Rocksmith DLC as our normal stream does. Oh, this explains that smell of wood when I got in here. And Brian Poedy makes guitars as a hobby, and he is...
We're almost there.
Oh, boy. Did your battery die in your
battery
drill?
died.
Oh, no. So we're going to have you just made a banjo. We've only got 5 strings.
Yeah, let's see what we can do.
Oh, Poedy.
So, surprise game.
Thanks. I love live television.
I know.
Or stream-o-vision or whatever we're on.
So these come with instructions. I have a garbage can right here.
Oh. I'll give you this. You're resourceful and brave.
Yeah.
You're like the Gryffindor of guitar. So,
So I bet we can make this work.
If we just shove it in.
Yeah, let's see.
Now, is there a chance you're going to splinter this wood by simply not having the correct size of every part?
I think it's going to be fine.
Is this a good time to remind you that this is company property? See the asset tag on the back that says this is property of Ubisoft? Are you just going to not pay attention to that?
Yeah, I mean...
I think our producers and the people that own this are watching.
I know, and we're creating good content.
That's true. This is real, folks. You wanted real? This is real.
I mean, you know, sometimes you end up in these situations where something has to get done.
All right.
And you don't have all the right things. Okay, here's
it
our...
It worked, sort of?
No, that's great.
It worked. Okay. Oh, so are these staggered? Did you get a staggered set? All right.
Yeah, these are staggered tuners.
So staggered tuners means that normally you can see that little piece of metal on the in the middle of the headstock of this guitar here. These are the string trees. And those are designed to keep the strings from flying away and keep some tension there.
So that's
and
my
Brian
other...
hates them.
That's my other favorite part of this.
Is that you
we
get to remove
take these
the string trees. So those string trees are there if your tuners do not compensate, if they're all at the same height across the
I mentioned I have a garbage can here.
Right. You can get rid of the string trees. It's fine.
Now they're gone.
Brian bought a set of hip shot tuners where the posts on the tuners are staggered so that they automatically keep the string at an appropriate height for where they should be, so that you don't need the string trees. The string trees are you know, like, again, these designs were made in the 50s, so there's certain things that, well, that was the best that we could do at the time. That seemed to make sense. Let's put it in production. And as people have refined and thought about guitars so much more over the years, they wind up coming up with better ideas. And I personally think that stagger tuners are a better idea in this regard.
It's become a much more high-performance instrument over the years.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good way to look at it.
It's funny. In a lot of ways, I think of guitars as cars. You know, like you can always start with an old Ford or something like that, the romance of the hot rod, making a muscle car into something that you want it to be. Guitars are like that, only somewhat cheaper. I mean, they don't have to be. Mind you, depends on where you start. But, you know, so many things about the guitar have become commoditized at this point that there are standard sort of Gibson design elements, standard Fender guitar design elements, and aftermarket companies that make things like, hey, you've got a Fender. Obviously, these tuners would not work on a Gibson or an Epiphone. They are designed for that Fender style 6 in a line. So just little things like that.
They do come in a 3x3.
Sure, but you know, you have to make sure that you're getting the right ones.
Right, and measure. There's something to be learned here. Like
Certainly
there's
measure.
a big lesson.
Make sure you have all the drill bits you could possibly need, specifically the ones that are the right size.
I almost brought in all of my drill bits today.
Yeah.
But it's
Wouldn't that
really
have been good?
heavy. It would have been good. But, you know.
But you ride your bike to work, and so it's so while he's doing that, Travis has another question. What can we do for you, Travis?
Hey, yeah. So we had someone ask why he had to drill that top tuner hole, and I think it's important to note if you just came in, we drilled the other 5 before we got on the streams.
Yes, I noticed that it looked a little odd, but Brian had done, again, we're trying to compress this as much as possible, very much like a cooking show or a baking show where you're like, and you know, I did that 45 minutes ago, and here you go. So I noticed that when he started to do this, I was like, that's weird. 5 of them look sort of larger and darker, but maybe it's just the shadows, or maybe he's going to do, no, he wouldn't do that live, and then he surprised me and actually did it live. So yeah, he had gone through, and that's why why his drill battery is done. But you did make it work, right?
Yeah.
By some miracle. Now you're lining these up with a straight edge here, just to make sure that they look pretty, and that when you put down the set screw that keeps this tuning machine in place up on the headstock,
they'll all be in line.
They'll all be in line. Now I don't suppose that you are going to be able to use the same hole for the set screw from the original tuners, which are a completely different design.
No,
you can't.
the
You can
original
see
tuners
there's,
are way off of what these are.
So if you're replacing tuners, and I did this on one of my guitars where it was very important to me that I not drill any extra holes in the neck. It was a very small headstock, and it was a collectible guitar, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I shopped specifically looking for something that matched the exact size of my tuner holes and even the set screws. I was super anal, and that worked for me. So there is a trade-off. If you want the ultimate tuner for you, but it doesn't already exactly align, and a lot of these have set screws in completely different places. You may actually need to accept that you're going to have weird little holes in the back of your headstock, and some people are going to hate that.
And I will say, these hip shots, one of the great things about them is they come with these plates.
Okay.
These little metal plates. And if you put these plates on between the headstock and the tuner, you don't have to drill any holes.
But so there was an easier way for you to do this, and you just chose not to do it.
There was an easier way, and I chose not to do it because
you don't like using the plates.
No, I never have.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure they work great.
So there may be, what you're saying is there may be solutions to whatever your guitar's unique predicament is based on what you do there. So what we have is six holes here that we're just never going to use.
Yeah, we're not going to use those plates. I wonder if anyone wants to go to facilities. Thank you, Travis.
No. No. Okay, so your tuners are on. Your pickup is on. Now, you routed this for a humbucker. Are you going to put a humbucker in there?
No.
Or you just did it to prove
did
that
it
you
for
could
the sake
do
of
it
doing it.
because you wanted to take some wood out of this thing.
Yeah.
But you could get a new scratch plate and install a humbucker here. Or, I mean, would you recommend cutting out the plastic yourself? Or is it easier to just get a brand new?
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's our top-down cam.
Spend the $10 or $15 and get a new pickguard because
this pickguard part is not very expensive. Sometimes the holes may not align, so you will have to do a little research to find out whether it's a vintage or it's an import, because unfortunately, American guitars and their build standards sometimes have different parts in different places or different measurements than the import ones made in Korea or Indonesia or Japan. So you need to know that. Mexican Strats are very popular. The Fender Standard Stratocaster is actually made in Mexico. The Fender American Standard is made in Corona, California. But parts are not necessarily like screw holes and scratch plates. I actually tried to put an import scratch plate on my American Strat and found out the hard way, and I put new holes in it, which made me sad because, again, I try not to do that. But then and it made me even sadder when I was like, I don't like this new one, and I went back to the old one. So do keep that in mind. You are going to have to do some research on your specific model and take as many measurements as you possibly can. But your original guitar's manufacturer probably has a website, and that probably has information, or you can reach out to their customer support team and say, I have this. Do you have the specs for this? The Internet Archive at Wayback is very big for finding old, dead websites. If your guitar came out in the mid-'90s, I have a lot of '90s guitars that I need that for. What are we doing? What's next? I see you guys sort of pointing at each other.
I think Travis is probably suggesting just using gaff tape.
No, do not just slap a pickup in there with gaffing tape, please. Regardless. Oh, Travis.
I'm just going to say, if it can't be fixed with gaff, then it can't be fixed.
Oh, that's a terrible way
right.
to look at life. I mean, I know that you live by those words, but still.
So I wanted to talk about a really kind of simple and cheap mod. If you don't like your pickups, there's something you can do to drastically change the sound for $2 or $3.
Well, okay, this easiest thing that you can do to change the sound of your entire guitar is definitely change the pickups. That's going to have the most difference in tone. But I'm pretty sure, because I remember some of the feedback from the first stream, I don't know what I want it to sound like. I don't know if I'm going to like that new pickup. How do I find out what it's going to sound like? Sound samples online can take you to certain, to a place. But again, it's going to sound different when you play it through your guitar, through your amplifier, or your version of Rocksmith with your favorite custom tone. So swapping out pickups with all the soldering that he was doing can be a pain in the ass, but you have come up with a better way.
Well, there's just something different that you can do. So I've found through building a lot of pickups that the thing that colors the tone most to my ears is the type of magnet that you put in the pickup.
I've heard Alnico 2, Alnico 5. This is aluminum, nickel, and cobalt as an acronym.
Right.
And different magnets are associated with different sounds over the years. Alnico 2s are vintage, right? And Alnico 5s are sort of later things, would have a little hotter output or a little stronger. I mean, it's all kind of voodoo to a certain extent. But
pickup making in general is really kind of voodoo. So Alnico 2s get put in a lot of the modern vintage pickups.
Okay.
If you look back at, the PAF pickups from the 50s, supposedly a lot of those are actually Alnico 4s.
Right, which is not a common magnet anymore.
It is not. And part of the issue and part of why you see the Alnico 2s and 5s so much, particularly the 5s, is they hold their charge better.
Okay.
So the lower kind of output magnets, the magnets with less pull, tend to lose that pull more quickly over the years. So the Alnico 5s maintain that for much longer, which is why most companies use them.
Right.
Like DiMarzio doesn't use Alnico 2s at all because they lose their charge.
So the idea there is that they're building a pickup that will sound more like it does in 20 years the same way that it does today, whereas a lot of people fall in love with those weaker signals in those vintage pickups because they want that mellow or softer sound.
Right.
So you've removed the screws, or you've backed the screws out.
I backed all of these out, and now I'm going to take out the screws on the back plate. You could probably get away with just loosening these rather than taking them all the way out and have your pickup completely fall apart.
I was going to say, make sure that you're not doing this unless you are willing to accept the ramifications of disassembling your pickup, either in part or in whole.
Right. It is possible to
But why are you doing
wire.
this modification?
So what you can do is you can push the magnet out of the pickup.
All right, let's go back to that close-up and see what the hell he's doing.
This one is wax potted, and the magnet's fairly stuck in there, but I think it just broke free.
Is this a pickup that you made?
This is a pickup
You're
that I made.
disassembling, because I notice it's got your little quick disconnect.
Right, yeah.
For
those
easy
are,
swapping.
These are the same ones that Gibson uses. They're super handy. So, assuming I can get this guy to free himself, from the confines of this pickup.
All right.
A lot of times this is easier.
No, only when you're trying to do something live in front of the internet does it become very difficult.
Suddenly it's hard. The wax really gets them stuck in there sometimes.
Sure. Well, that's the wax's job.
It is.
You may have heard of wax-potted pickups, and the idea is that you coil the wire around the magnet and then you dip it in hot wax. When it cools, that's also supposed to reduce some of the microphonics of it so that you get a more controllable signal that's not going to feed back out of that. Again, this is also a controversial. Almost everything we're talking about is controversial because people have given this so much thought and they've got different experiences out there. So you will hear a lot of that. You should definitely wax-pot your pickups. You should definitely not wax-pot your pickups.
I love the sound of an unpotted pickup.
Oh, the secret to this famous guitarist's tone was because he didn't use wax-potted. No, I saw an interview where he said he did wax-pot his pickup.
So
you can go down that rabbit hole forever. So, okay, you just popped out the magnets. These are the actual magnets from a pickup that you built.
This one is the old one. This is the new one. If you buy magnets, they're going to be labeled north and south. Well, they'll be labeled north, probably not south. But keep in mind what came out, because you want to put it back in the same way. Otherwise, it's going to be out of phase with the other pickup, which, hey, maybe you actually want. That right there is the Peter Green mod, is to flip your magnet.
So let me try to explain that in 30 seconds or less. Since pickups are magnetic items, and the north and the south does matter, how they are oriented on the guitar, how they're wired into your circuit, also affects how they interact with each other. So putting it out of phase is basically not breaking it, but it
gives you a really hollow sound.
Yeah. But that hollow sound, Peter Green was the guitarist for Fleetwood Mac in their earliest days when they were very blues-oriented. That is a tone that people really love and want to try to recapture. And so a lot of people say, oh, well, it was the out-of-phase pickup. I've also heard of people saying, oh, yeah, I wondered what the secret was, why that guitar sounded so much better. Turns out that the pickup was broken, the coil was broken, or the magnet slipped or something. And it's actually these imperfections that give us some amazing sounds in the world of guitar. So out-of-phase is something that you shouldn't do unless you know that you want to experiment with what it sounds like out of phase. It might sound like crap, and scientifically, it's supposed to sound better when it's in phase. But again, you're going to get a lot of variance here, and you're going to get a lot of people that say, no, that's not the way it works for me, or I have it intentionally out of phase, and that gives me the sound that I want. Again, entirely personal choice. So are you swapping these out of phase now? Is that what you're doing?
I did not put it out of phase. I put it back the way it would be. So an easy way to check, if you need to, if you have a magnet and you know which end is north,
right?
This has a little N on it.
It says a little N for north.
So you take your other pickup, and it sticks to this pole. So this pole with the screws is the south side.
Because opposites attract, as Paula Abdul taught us so many years ago.
And then the side with these flat pole pieces is repelling the magnet, so that's the north side. So you would want to put the magnet in with the north side facing the pole pieces, assuming you want to put it back in the way it came out.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, that's a super fast, assuming you don't break anything. And
so you're suggesting actually pulling the magnet out and swapping around its orientation, not turning the whole pickup around, but actually digging in and removing the magnet.
Yeah, what I'm saying is swap it for a different type. So this,
I see. Okay.
This pickup had an Alnico 5 in it, and I just put an Alnico 4 in it. So that's really going to change the frequency response.
Where'd you get an Alnico 4, man?
I've got them all, Dan. I've got a lot of magnets. eBay. Yeah. eBay's a great resource for magnets. These things are like $2.50 a piece.
And how much is it for a boutique set of pickups? Several $100s, I believe you said earlier in the show. But I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. There's the coil of the wire. There's testing, and there's making sure that it works, and there's actually building it in a specific way to try to get a specific sound, which is really what I think most of the mojo is.
Yeah, and you can change the sound of a pickup a lot through changing that magnet out.
All right. Hey, Travis, you've got questions from our audience.
Yeah, I've been saving this one. It's a really cool question. So Octanus asks, so I've been an acoustic player for nearly 15 years, but only picked up an electric when I got Rocksmith. Because of that, I have a cheapo $90 electric. Is it more cost-effective for me to try to make some of these adjustments to the guitar, or to the guitar I have, or use those funds to get a better quality guitar in all facets rather than piecemeal upgrades?
This is the ultimate question of this entire Rocksmith Encore series. Thank you for saving it for the end, because it really is a good summary kind of question. You start looking at, well, it's going to cost me, $150 for a reasonable set of pickups, more if you want something fancy. It's going to cost me $40 or $50 for a tuner. It's going to cost me $30 for a bridge. Maybe you want fancy new knobs, or you need different pots. It adds up to the point where the upgrades are worth more than the core guitar that you paid. And because you know that the old parts are not very good, it's not even like you could sell them for a profit. Nobody wants the old bridge. Like,
probably not.
Bridge for $5? You're not going to recoup the investment. You like to tinker.
I do. So that's the thing. If you want to tinker and you want a platform where if something goes horribly wrong, you're not going to be upset, then maybe that $90 guitar is a good place to start tinkering.
I would agree with that. Because you need to find you're going to do this wrong. If I can swear by the book of Eddie Van Halen, that man destroyed more beautiful guitars simply by learning what he was doing by making mistakes as he went. He freely admits. Read any interview with him about hacking the guitar. He said he was never one to wait for the electrician. Right, like if he wanted something, he would find a practical solution, often a very sloppy solution. The quarter that's famously drilled near his bridge because it wasn't leveling out, so he took a quarter out of his pocket, drilled it into his guitar, and it stayed there for years. And then when they decided to make a replica of that guitar, they had to find quarters from that year so that it would be accurate. I mean, at that point, the $90 thing should be something that you could live without if you are willing to trade it for the experience of learning what you're doing.
Right. If all you want is a pretty darn good mid-grade guitar, if you have $300 or $400, you can get a lot of guitar for that money these days.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it's worth noting that, so I had a guitar upgrade. I didn't do it myself because I'm not you, but I had a guitar that I really liked the core of it. I liked the construction. I liked the feel. What I wanted to change was the color, which is a completely different kind of mod. So, but it had to be disassembled, sanded down, resprayed in a candy color with a metallic. It looks great now. But that was, that was a $500 guitar when I started, and I wound up putting at least another $400 into it. Plus, I got some fancy lace Hemi humbuckers and put them in there because I liked the way they looked, and also I like what lace pickups do. That's a completely different story because they don't work like other pickups. But I was willing to do that because, and this was the point, I wanted something unique. I wanted like the Dan guitar. And people who see it go, wow, that's a really Dan guitar because they know my tastes. And so there's that too. If you want the pride of being able to say, this is made to my specifications, then it's not worth buying a $300 or $400 guitar off the rack, which is just like every other guitar like it, unless that represents the design aesthetic and the functionality that you want. If you are more of like I did this myself and it's exactly what I want it to be, even if I made a couple of mistakes, I knew what I wanted. I didn't know how to get it necessarily until I did it. That is worth a lot. I will never sell the Tangerine Dream, the orange guitar, that because there's nothing else like it. I've even shown it back to the manufacturer. I was like, I didn't like the color it came in. I did this mod, and they were like, dude, that's super cool. So I'm proud that I have the only one of those guitars in existence. But at the same time, I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, there was nothing else like this that looked exactly this way. But I used to go to Warmouth.com, which is a place you can get custom bodies and necks and stuff. And I would dream and I would build, create your own guitar. And, you put all the stuff in your cart and you see like this mock-up of what it's going to look like. And then you see that it's going to cost you $2,000 to get the guitar you want. And
that finishing is expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I wanted a metal flake. I wanted candy colors and everything. And then by dumb luck, like 3 months after I did that, I found that there was a production instrument that was exactly that. I mean, everything down. The only thing was that it had a reverse headstock, and I would have preferred a traditional headstock. Everything else, the parts, the pickups, everything was exactly what I wanted. So I bought that. I didn't bother building a $2,000 guitar when there was a $750 guitar off the rack that did everything that I wanted. Well, it was marked down severely. It was super mega discontinued, but that worked for me. So it really is a question of what do you want to play? Do you want to play something that's super solid and you want to trust that somebody else has made to a high standard and get a huge value for your money? Or do you want something that really reflects you and your personality as a player and your needs as a player? And of course, the adventure of taking on this kind of challenge.
Yeah, and I will say the guitar that I play pretty much every week on the stream, that started out life as a Squire, and I did much what we're doing to this guitar and replaced everything on it, and it's great.
So that white guitar with the black pickguard.
Yeah, it's actually right.
Oh, it's over there. Yeah, I've seen you play that a lot, and you said that the body is a Squire, but everything else you've changed.
Yep. Yeah.
So
everything else
and again,
got
it would have
changed
been
over time.
It would have been cheaper to go and get a guitar that was already built to that spec. But you know this inside and out, and you had a lot of fun doing it, and it's exactly what you want it to be for now. I'm sure that you would also have no problem being like, you know what, I want to try a different pickup in here.
Yeah, I actually have swapped out the pickup when I was playing a show that was all in C standard.
Right. Oh, yes.
I needed kind of a hotter pickup that had a tighter sound, so I made another pickup for it. And I actually did just what we did here. I originally built it with an Alnico 8 magnet, and it was extremely muddy in that low tuning. So I pulled that out and I put a ceramic pickup in it, or a ceramic magnet in it, and it was just magic. It sounded just right.
So I guess what we're saying, to recap, this is hard, but you can do it. You're going to make mistakes, and they may be expensive. There's a lot of information out on the internet that you can actually trust when it comes to why different parts would be used for different situations, how wiring can go together. There's lots of references. This is not a new thing. People have been studying guitars, electric guitars, for 75 years now. It's all good. You can get the information. Go slow. Don't destroy your only instrument. I would highly recommend.
Yeah, go to a pawn shop.
Yeah, finding a pawn shop.
Buy something
I got
really
a friend,
cheap.
man, down in Redwood City, and I am so jealous of him. Every weekend that there's like during the yard sale season, he goes out, he finds amazing deals, and he's constantly coming back to me and saying, "Hey, I got this for $50. Is this a good deal?" And I'm like, "It's a $300 guitar," you know. And so you can find victims for your operating table very easily for little to no money if you're not afraid to. I mean, especially if it's not playing well to begin with. Hey, you can only make it better. You can try ripping out the frets and learning how to refret. I mean, there's some dramatic things that you can do, but don't spend a lot to get into spending a lot on your guitar.
Right.
That's what I would suggest.
It's lots of fun to tinker, but the first time around,
will be
start with a cheap bass. Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, or a cheap guitar. Sorry. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? I know we had a lot of people in the stream today, and we tried to answer as many of your chat questions. If you have more specific things, do you want to send them to Rocksmith.com for the forums, where we can talk about this? That's probably the best place to have a conversation about this, at Rocksmith.com. Go into our forums, and we'll set up if there isn't already.
There's already a thread about this, so yeah, that's a good place to ask questions. There's always Twitter.
Mm-hmm. At Rocksmith Game.
The answers will be short.
Yeah, exactly. That's because this is so much more of a personal thing, or you may have an exception where you want to say, well, I have this guitar, would item A work for guitar B, that kind of stuff. If you want to get specific about your setup, I would highly recommend going to the Rocksmith.com forums rather than social media, Facebook or Twitter. I mean, we're open to you there, /Rocksmith on Facebook and /Rocksmith Game on Twitter, but you're not going to be able to convey yourself, and everybody around you is going to be like, what? Whereas in our forums, if you go into detail, there's other people that would probably really like to know the detail of your situation, because it may inform their own in something as persistent as a forum conversation. Thank you so much, because this was and again, I can't believe that you just pulled out a drill and the wrong size bit and said, "We'll do it live."
Yeah,
you were teasing earlier on. You goes, "Yeah, we'll do it live. We'll do it live." And I'm like, "Ha ha ha! Oh my God, he was not kidding." So
that's not how you should do it.
If people want to follow you on Twitter, you're Poedy Guitars now, Poedy Guitars. Yep. So I assume you would be able to answer some specific questions there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will probably be the occasional cool guitar pick up there and works in progress that I'm working on. So
excellent.
Check that out.
We are not done. We're done for today, and thank you for joining us. But this is a 3-part series. Part 1 was assembly and anatomy of the guitar. This was part 2 about the upgrading and improving your guitar. What's part 3 going to be about?
Part 3 is going to be about setup. So how we take this guitar that we've managed to not destroy.
Yeah, so far.
And set it up and make it play great.
This is a step that everybody should learn how to do. This is a step above just learning how to change your strings or something like that. This is, what if the strings are too high off the neck? How can you adjust that? How can you make your guitar play more comfortably? And there's pretty much a good chance that everybody out there listening to me right now has played a guitar that they really liked, except, man, it didn't feel right. There was something about it that could have been tweaked. And so you don't have to do any heavy duty. There's not going to be any power tools next time. Well, I can't say that. He'll probably find a way to work a power tool in. But this is much more of a thing that you can do on your couch on the weekends while you're watching TV. Yeah. You can tweak little elements, angles of your guitar, little things that can really make it feel way more comfortable to play for longer, and you'll just find it more enjoyable. So I think part 3 is the one aspect of this stream series that literally everybody watching this can use and should heed. So please do join us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. That would be September 25th, Monday, September 25th, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT, same time that we're doing it right now. If you didn't see part 1 or you'd like to see part 2 again, please go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/rocksmithgame. The archive of the earlier videos is there. We have them in a special Rocksmith Encore playlist if you'd like to see them. Earlier versions of Rocksmith Encore had nothing to do with the technical sides of building guitars. They were much more about the history of heavy metal. Or we did one where Brian Shu, who's an amazing player, gives you advice on how to play better and what techniques and warm-up exercises he would recommend for you to get really smooth in your playing. Brian McCune, our manager of musical content, told us all about the physics of sound and why music sounds the way it does to your ear. So we're going to keep pushing the boundaries of Rocksmith Encore. We're open to your ideas as well. Please do let us know what kind of topics you'd like to hear on future shows. In addition to part 3 of Rocksmith Encore, we will be back with our regular stream on Thursday. That's also 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT. That'll be this Thursday. We have announced that this week's DLC, we're going back to the 80s with the 1980s mix of Pack 4. Huey Lewis, Rat, and Steve Winwood are all going to be played. Plus, we have a special bonus song that you'll have to tune in on Thursday to find out. So that'll be here as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Brian, for sharing your expertise and scaring the snot out of me by drilling things live. I was like, what is that smell when I came in here? It's the smell of burning wood. And they're like, yeah, it's just because,
drill bit was extremely dull.
Wow,
because
amazing.
It came from facilities.
Oy vey. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. We'll see you Thursday. And thanks again to Black Widow for being our mod. Thanks to Honeypot and to Travis for working some of your questions in. Bye, Travis. Thank you so much for running the Wheels of Steel. We'll see you back here in just 72 hours here on Twitch. Bye, everybody.